part of history.
Okay.
You
Thanks for
expect
the fair warning.
You expect a quorum today?
Well, I don't know. Right now we got 2 of you. At the head of the table and run the meeting.
No.
I've got all your reports pulled up and ready
You do?
to.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's what I was just starting to look for. I was like, you have some documents here I need to look at.
There's a copy of all of them in your packet.
Oh, you're the best. What did I do without you?
No.
Do you know does anybody know if we got the provision to replace board members who do not participate?
I don't think we replaced them, right?
No, I don't think we did,
Yeah.
but there was talk about the fact that we have members on the committee that never show up for a meeting.
Oh, yeah, there was somebody that it was, well, it's in previous minutes, but Troy, can you remember what those were?
Yes.
Who that was? And
That got a little loud.
Yes. So Alejo Cabrera, it's his appointment from the park board. He's on the park board. He makes that appointment. We've shared that with him. Hopefully, with the next park board meeting coming up on Monday, he will bring his appointment. I'm hoping, anyways.
All right, was that the only one?
So far.
Okay.
So far, we do not have a quorum. We only have 2 members present.
So Nancy, I think you helped substitute in the past to be in charge of the meeting.
I did? Okay. So, sure.
Well, then, I'm going to ask you if you would do that. And
Sure. Okay.
for the most part,
Maybe a very quick meeting. I guess we can't vote on anything, but I guess we can still have the meeting. So, calling to order, announcements. I don't think there were any listed.
I don't have any.
Okay. Any public comments?
I received none.
All right. Transcript of the minutes, or transcript of our last meeting is on record. So no written minutes.
Not yet.
Items for, I'm sorry, I'm not being very polite by having you guys talk to my initials. Items for consideration.
So Nancy,
Okay.
I'm going to make a friendly suggestion if I could go over the prior business and then jump into new items.
Sure.
Okay, great. So hiring is coming along. We've had 7 vacancies that have, in one form or another, have gone out for posting, and we've actually hired calling into the vacant pro position. I think we made an offer to the assistant professional, and he was supposed to do his drug test yesterday. I didn't hear anything bad, so usually no news is good news. So he's anticipated to start on the 18th, I do believe.
Can we have a name, or is that confidential until?
I'd give you the name if I knew his name. Uh, Actually, Applehans knows. She could actually tell you a little bit about him.
You're talking about the girl with the paper in front of her face?
Yeah.
It's Mr. Burkhart, and he actually has a really great background in golf. He took over a golf course in, I believe it was Denver, Colorado. It was plummeting. They were hemorrhaging money, and he and a partner took it over, revitalized it, turned it into $1 million revenue golf course. He has a great mentality about developing players and youth golf, but also social golf. Really, really strong background with customer service, understanding golf operations. I think he's going to be a great fit to the division. I'm excited for him to start because I think he's going to be bringing in a fresh energy that will get everybody excited at the courses.
And which position is that?
He's the assistant golf professional. So we will have 2 assistants on staff now.
Okay, will he be located at a particular course?
Troy, you're muted.
So we're looking at coming up with something out of the box. I think we're going to have a situation where we'll have these 2 assistants shared at all 4 golf courses. So we'll have to figure out a good way of managing that, tracking their hours. But what I'm really excited about is that with that, we now have staff that can fill in when we have golf pros either needing vacation or time off or they're ill. So it helps us with a lot of flexibility to making sure all the golf courses are covered. So pretty excited about that.
So Troy, is it your plan then to restaff all the open positions before we hire a director for golf?
Hold on one moment.
So now we got all 8 vacant positions posted, and I believe 3 have already closed and we've conducted interviews for, and there's only the one gentleman we've made an offer to, but we still have 5 positions that we're looking to fill, and one of those includes the director of golf.
The director of golf closes on the 10th, which is coming up really soon. And I think we have several applicants, which I'm excited to take a look at. I haven't had a chance to look at them yet. I'll probably start reviewing those on Monday. So to answer your question, Niall, I think Applehans might have answered some of it, but some of these positions, we just need to get them hired. The maintenance folks, they need to get those people going. And so we're trying to get the greenskeeper and the assistant superintendent position filled as quickly as possible. And we have a vacant superintendent position as well. So we really need to get those positions filled quickly.
Well, just maybe I'm remembering wrong, Troy, but I thought that one of the directives or preferences that were voiced by the council when they decided not to go with the private contract was to wait until we had somebody over the golf division before we started filling those professional and skilled positions.
I don't think I recall that directive at all.
Okay, that's just.
And what I've been sharing with the council on a regular basis and with the city manager is obviously we've been posting these positions to get them filled. The food and beverage position, I'm going to wait until after we hire somebody for the director of golf. But the other positions that are out in the field, we need to start getting people out there to maintain the golf courses.
Yeah, okay.
The grass is getting green. And if we don't have these people, then we're one step behind.
And so the position closes You said next week,
Closes on Sunday,
Sunday.
on the 10th.
And how many applicants do you have so far?
I do not know. I'll get that from HR once it closes, but they've shared with me that they think they have a good pool of candidates to look at. And I think there's been a lot of interest from across the country because we've been using the PGA to help us with recruitment.
All right, okay, thanks.
So now I'll get your application in on Sunday, before Sunday.
I'm sorry, I've already been headhunted and before, and it just never worked out.
Okay. Next item was the McDonald upgrades. And to my frustration, as much as I planned this way ahead of time, I actually got the funding for this project back in beginning of February of last year. Took it to our engineering folks. We ended up having to redesign the work that's going to be going on over at McDonald for the ponds and for the bridges. Went out to bid. Finally got some bids in place. Had to get more money. So finally we're looking at actually seeing some work done at the end of this month. But it's going to actually slide into the summer months. We'll have to plan in some creative operations there for the golfers to either play 9 holes or play around an area that's going to be under construction for those ponds. I did not want to do this in the summer months. I specifically went through all this trouble to make sure we get it done in the winter months, but obviously we missed that window. And if I wait till November again, we'll have to rebid it, then we'll be back at the end of the line. Construction projects is so premium right now, it's hard to get people to bid on projects. So I think it's important that we move forward with it. I think it's going to be inconvenient. It's going to be a little bit of a loss of revenue as well. But I think at the end, once we get it done, it's going to be worth the efforts. So we're trying to manage it as best as we can. So I just want to make sure you guys were aware of that.
Thanks for letting us know that. Are there any plans for making signage for Pardon the Mess at Mac and stuff like that? I think that'd be a good thing to publish on the golf website, on the golf app, everywhere, just so people
Yeah,
are in the
once we
know.
get closer, we'll put that out there.
Yeah, well, it's the end of this month, so it seems like it's pretty close.
Well, we need to specifically, well, we can put something out in general, but I think what we really wanted to do was specifically, this hole will be closed, specifically from these hours to these hours, specifically dates from May 5th through whatever. So, and it's going to be different locations of the golf course at different times of the calendar. So
Yeah.
it's not going to just be one shot. We'll be continually changing as the work moves around the golf courses. And Nancy, you're absolutely right. That's something we were thinking about doing, we were talking about doing, but I don't think we really sat down and share with anybody what our strategy is yet.
Yeah, and there's no such thing as over communication, so. Yeah.
Agreed.
Good. Did you have anything else then, Troy, in the prior business?
No.
We'll go up to the new items for consideration. I think these are kind of lofty. Oh, I guess we have 4. Is that a quorum? Is 4 a quorum?
No, you need 5.
So these items that are listed about the carts and membership fee increases, those would probably need to be voted on. So we can't really vote on them, but if we can visit a little bit about it, would that be okay?
Most definitely. The more I get information to you guys now, the easier it will be when we do get a quorum.
Yeah.
So,
I see. Okay, go ahead.
Penny, if you could put up the one for the carts, there you go. So one of the things I'm always really concerned about is replacement of the carts. We did get some new carts 3 years ago, going on 4 years, and so we need to have some kind of other finances coming in, other funding to come in to have a constant replacement. And so we talked about this idea of a replacement fund for the carts. And so on the left is carts by location from different areas that around this, around us that have carts and do golf with carts. And then there's a description there in regards to all the different carts that we have for usage, whether it's 18 for half cart, 9 for half cart, 18 for a full cart, and 19. So we've actually used more carts than that quantity that's right there, but these are the ones that we actually get revenues from. So the potential increase with $1, $1.50, $2, and $2.50. And this is what it looks like. And so this is what you guys asked for. So I wanted to make sure you guys got this. And if there's any questions and if you guys are supportive of this potential increase going into a golf cart replacement fund. So.
Well, I'm in favor of the $1 increase myself. I did want to say, I called the golf courses that were on the list today or else checked online, and some of the numbers aren't quite accurate on there. For instance, the rates that you have listed for, I mean, nobody, not very many people pay for a whole cart by themselves. So a half cart fee under the 18, under the left-hand side, like at Hidden Lakes, a half cart fee is $13.91, and a 9-hole cart fee is $8.60. So those, I mean, some of these things can be updated just so we're comparing apples to apples. Wellington is $13, and the 9-hole is $6.50. Cary Park is correct the way it's listed, as is Cherry Oaks. And then Quail Ridge, they there's actually is $11.75 for a cart, whether it's 9 holes or 18 holes for half of a cart. They had it listed as they have a riding fee as well as a cart or a walking fee. So if you subtract that, it comes to $11.75 for a cart for either front or for either 18 or for 9. Cedar Pines of Andover is $15 and $11 for 9. Heston's correct. Clearwater Greens is permanently closed, so that's not a comparison anymore. And Wedgwood in Halstead is 11 and 7.
Well,
Just
sounds
so
like
we're,
This is Cameron. I have a question. What this is first off great. It's great to be able to look at this and do the comparison and see what the $1.52 will do from an increased revenue. My question is, what are the needs? Like,
So
what
let me-
needs and carts do we need? I think a lot of that is going to determine on like where we would go, like from $1 to $2.50.
So the need is we need funding for replacement of the carts. Right now, we don't have a dedicated funding other than the general golf fund, which we
No,
want
I
to use.
understand that. How much do you need?
We
What
need
do
a
you
lot.
need? Like how, right?
It's-
Like how many? What do we have a breakdown of how many carts we have that are this year's this long old, or they're purchased this year versus 10 years ago versus 15 years ago? What is the normal wear and tear? And then what does that cycle time look like so we can make a determination on what to replace first? And then how many are in each bundle so you can have a price point?
So there's a lot of different ways to put this, whether the cart's before the horse or horse before the cart. Funding is what drives what we can get. The demand is always going to be there. So we spent a little over $1 million for the fleet 4 years ago, and that was with putting in money for the trade-ins as well. What I'm looking at is hopefully raising about about $1.5 million over 10 years and replacing carts every other year if we do this on purchase. There's been some discussion on whether we should do this on leasing. There's pros and cons, and we can sit down and look at it and see what that's going to come out to be. But without having funding in place to really look at it, then I really can't put a plan together as to which carts we're going to replace and how many carts.
I don't know if I completely agree with that, because when I think about buying a vehicle or replacing a vehicle, I know around 150,000 miles, things start to go wrong. There's things that you need to do to maintenance those vehicles. And at some point, I'm going to need to get a new car. And I would think that a cart is in the same realm of that. And after so many hours, I'm assuming it might need to have that, some things replaced or completely replaced.
Mhm.
What is that normal cycle time or wear time? And then where are our carts stand currently? And then based off that, you can kind of have an idea of what the spend will be average each year. And then in this 10-year, does this 10-year method even, like, do these numbers get us there?
That's exactly what we're doing here. We have a fleet that needs to be replaced about every 10 years. We're 4 years into it, so we're already behind in regards to raising money for replacement. So if we're looking
Gotcha. So you're saying the whole fleet. Okay, that answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if we can do that incrementally, every 2 years, maybe it's 20% of the fleet that's replaced. And that would be our worst carts, even if there are under a certain amount of hours. Some carts get more abused than others, and so those carts could be replaced. So we would replace the worst carts first. And we have a 10-year replacement plan for all of the fleet. On a rotating basis every 2 years, maybe it's about 25 or 20% of the carts. And Nancy, I appreciate you looking into it. I think we had got this information several months back as we were anticipating this several months back, really working on this. So probably as the new season has started, as you can see, a lot of these prices have gone up. So this is even bodes well even more for us to really look at. Is it time for us to make an increase?
Troy, am I reading this right, that at our current price point, we're selling $1,260,000 worth of carts a year? Is that correct?
At the very bottom, 101,000 carts is what we rented out, and for a total revenue of 1.259 million.
Okay. And you said that you replaced the fleet for how much money?
Back then it was $1 million, a little over $1 million.
So every year we're earning enough to replace the fleet.
That's revenue.
Yeah. So does some of that revenue go to other golf activities besides carts?
Almost definitely, but without it, we wouldn't be able to operate. So,
So we're subsidizing labor cost and other golf activity from the carts.
yeah, that would also be replacement of mowing equipment, repairs to the buildings, repairs to the golf courses, all that kind of stuff. Yes.
So how much goes into the cart fund?
We don't have a cart fund. That's the whole point, is we don't have any way to replace our carts right now. Unless we use the golf, fund, which can be done. It just depends on how we want to strategize using our money. So if we have a dedicated golf fund, just like we have a dedicated fund for equipment replacement, which doesn't meet our needs, it needs to be more, or we use the golf fund for that. But here's an example: is if it goes up $1, that looks like we're going to be $230,000 is in the good. That could go into the golf fund. I'm sorry, into the cart fund. So if that would be something that could go every year, we would have dollars to start making replacements for these golf carts.
So we can't vote on anything today.
Have we looked into what's happened with do we have anything to show how much carts are costing today versus, when we purchased them last time, especially
Well,
with inflation and everything that's going on?
and that's why I'm figuring at least $1.5 to $1.6 million to replace them all. And every year it's going to go up a little bit more as well. The big issue is there's no golf carts to purchase right now. So the more that we actually can start banking and having money in the bank, when there are carts available, we can go out there and purchase them rather quickly. So
Would you also be pulling money from this fund to fix carts, I'm assuming now, versus the golf fund? That
correct.
would be for the carts, for the housing of the carts, everything to do with the carts.
Yes.
Are you thinking about voting on a certain amount, or are you thinking of starting from $1 and each year increasing that amount?
Well, like I mentioned, I'm looking at this over a 10-year projection, and if we can bring in $150,000 to $200,000 to put into the cart fund, I think that would be sustainable. That we can actually catch up and also plan for inflation as we keep moving forward, because I do believe carts are going to continue to get more and more expensive. So, at a dollar, we can almost get there. At $1.50, we're definitely feeling pretty good about that as well. So I think that's the right spot to be looking at, between $1 and $2, without going over too much. And it kind of matches some of the fees that are out there with the other golf courses. But what I need to start putting money into a pot, into this a dedicated golf cart fund, and that way we have the money ready to go when we have the ability to order carts. And like I said, I'm not going to be replacing the whole fleet at one time, but every other year, I guess every 2 years, we can definitely look at the worst carts and keep replacing those on a regular basis.
What are the negatives to this? I mean, there's been a lot of thought put into this. What are the negatives?
Well, if we don't do this, then I have to take money out of the golf fund. And what's the great thing about this is that if we put it towards just the golf carts, this money can't be used for anything else. So we know that we'll have a dedicated fund for that. The negative part of it is I won't be able to use those funds for anything else. So if something really difficult comes up where we have to make some major repairs, then I have to find money through the golf fund a different way. I think, again, we want to compare ourselves to competing golf courses, and we'll continue to need to do that. Yeah, I don't know what else.
Let me rephrase my question. What are the negatives to us doing it? if we do it, are there any negative implications that could occur? I can't see any, but I'm just asking.
From my perspective, I don't see any. We're raising the prices. We're going to raise the prices anyways, whether it goes to a dedicated golf fund or whether it goes to a designated golf cart fund. Overall, if there's some negative issues, it's just that perception that we're continually raising prices. But I think if we are comparable to other golf courses, then we are in good shape.
I agree. Thanks.
To me, I think it's better to have a plan to replacing these carts than just to wait until they all fall apart and then we all of a sudden say, hey, we need to replace the carts, which happened 3.5 years ago. We were at a point where we were complaining about the carts. They were dying in the middle of 18 holes. We had to bring them back or push them back for charges. A lot of the batteries weren't holding charges. There was one of the biggest complaints that we got was that our carts just were not quality carts. Actually had to use money from the general fund and from capital project savings and actually from the Parks and Recreation budget to pay for a new fleet. And it didn't come out of the golf fund at all. So this way, we're actually putting a plan together to be able to address the situation. And like I mentioned, we can do it every other year, purchase some carts to replace the worst ones. We're always trying to keep those carts going. I think that's a great replacement plan to keep quality carts on the courses.
I like the idea of the $1, just because that's not going to hurt anybody and nobody's going to notice paying 50 cents more. And it's going to something that everybody is going to benefit from. I don't think we need to go up to 250. Of course, that would bring lots of revenue, but I don't know that that would be necessary.
And just to clarify on this chart here, the $1 increase is based on the half cart.
Oh, on the half cart.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how we've traditionally done it in the past. Not saying that's how we have to do it. That's just how I set this up.
I see. Okay.
So if my math is right, we're looking at $260,000 a year. I'm sorry, is that right? $220,000. $220,000 a year, which I think would really start being able to bank a lot of money to be able to start the replacement plan.
Now, would that go in, would that be a line item in the golf fund, in the enterprise fund? Or is that going somewhere else?
It'd be an enterprise fund, but just dedicated for golf cart replacement.
Good. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I guess this will need to be on our agenda next month so we can vote on it.
Yep.
So do we have, Troy, we do have a dedicated fund for equipment replacement, don't we? We raise fees $1, green fees $1 some time ago and listed that as on the receipts as a reserve for golf equipment replacement.
Absolutely. Yes. And that raised, if I remember right, close to like $350,000 a year, thereabouts. So I have to go back and look at that, but that was what we used to purchase last year's mowing equipment. We're still waiting for 2 pieces of mowing equipment because of the supply chain. Toro, it's a long story.
It's okay. What's the current balance of that? Then after those expenditures,
I can't recall off the top of my head, but I think we have less than $100,000.
all right. So you raised about 250 and you spent about 150. Is that?
So this was actually money from the previous year that we collected. If I remember right, the balance was $370,000. We spent somewhere in the neighborhood of about $250,000 plus some additional fees now because they're raising the prices. So, but I have to go back and look at, because that increases every month, because every month we get more dollars going into that fund. So that balance changes every month. And I can't recall what it is off the top of my head. So we'll be going through a process just like we did before. What is our needs and what are the primary items that we have to replace, and we'll start using that fund to replace more of the tractors and mowing equipment.
All right, good, thank you. The next item was the fees for memberships. We can again have discussion, but no voting. So she's put that up here now.
So we wanted to put in the 2% because that's what we do automatically every year on the contract. And every year we increase it by 2%. We get a lot of calls saying, hey, you're taking more money out. Yes, we are, because by the contract, we are increasing it by 2%, which isn't a whole lot of money. But you guys wanted us to break it down by 5%, 10%, 15%. And so here are those numbers for you guys.
This was really interesting. I was wondering, the junior membership, if we can promote the free golf for junior golfers, will that number go down?
Last year when it started, we saw only about 15 juniors asked to have their membership frozen because they wanted to take advantage of that promo. We found that the majority of them would rather pay the $10 to avoid having to fill out the form every single time when they checked in.
And is there a workaround so we don't have to do that form or make it so cumbersome?
Unfortunately, no. That's how the Golf Marathon does their auditing versus what we bill them.
Okay. I didn't have any other questions about this.
So I think
Did
this,
anyone else?
what you guys had asked in regards to just, if we're gonna make any changes, it would be to the membership prices and not any of the other offerings that we have. So this would make an impact. This would be something that would help us make sure that we have, at the end of the year, that we have money, that we finish off the year in the black, and we can use those funds to put back into the golf courses, hire staff, pay staff more. Yeah, it would give us a lot more flexibility. I think we're fortunate that the past 2 years we've been in the black, but we need to continue looking at the future to see what we can do to raise revenues to make sure that we don't go in that situation where we've been in the past where we had to have furloughs or we had to cut people's hours, not being able to give salaries increases as much as we wanted. And now we really need to look at finding ways to make sure that we are paying our folks adequately. So we've been in the black, but this would be a great way to continue staying ahead of the curve. And hopefully we don't plateau. And if we do plateau, hopefully it's with many, many rounds. So if we're, go ahead.
I was just thinking, I think the real goal is to increase the number of memberships. I mean, that's more critical than it is 2%, 5%, or whatever. Are there some are we adequately promoting that within the clubhouses? People who casually come in and don't really look at the bulletin boards and things like that, if there's ways that that can be promoted, you know, more with just the personnel even within the clubhouses.
I think there's more ways we can promote the memberships. I think that's something Shannon keeps asking about a marketing budget, and I keep holding off. But this might be an area where we can spend a little bit of money to market this. But Nancy, I just want to remind you that, especially with the seniors, when some of these folks are playing a lot of golf, they end up paying anywhere between $4 and $5 a round.
Yeah,
And-
I know Dale shared that with us, but
And
but
so,
not everybody's playing as much as Dale.
well, you're right. But even if you're playing half as much as Dale, or even a third as much as Dale, we're still leaving a lot of money out on the table. And
But that's what would entice people to buy memberships.
yep, but there's got to be a sweet spot. You can't,
Yeah. And,
you know,
and if
you know,
we get,
you think about car washes. You know, it's great if you can wash your car every day, and they have that monthly membership. But people don't do that. But yet they price it in a way where they're going to be able to make some money. And we have to find that right sweet spot where it's not too cheap and it's not too expensive. So this was a
I do think that, you know, Nancy has a point though with the you know, just talking about the memberships in the clubhouse. I mean, when people go in there, and I go quite frequently, nothing's said to people that don't have a membership. They just charge them and that's it. No one tells them that there's a membership package that's super affordable. I think that's an easy ask, and it doesn't require any additional marketing funds. It just requires training.
You're right, and what I'm talking about is, you know, we have some flyers, we have a little handout. So if you know, the golf pros or whoever's at the front desk can say, hey, we appreciate you coming today. If you're going to be golfing a lot, here's something to think about. It's a card or something that would take us to, they can look it up on the website. Here's a link to the website to tell you a little bit more about the memberships.
Well, instead of doing that, why not just have like a little poster behind on the menu with a QR code? Then you're not having to print marketing material. They can just take a photo on their phone and it takes them to a QR that has that information. So that's helping with your marketing budget. And people are starting to become more used to QR codes and technology, especially with COVID, because that's how menus are used at restaurants. So
Right.
I think that might be potentially a better solution, just because you don't have to print the material. That sounds like a hassle.
an additional solution, I think there's just lots of
I agree.
possibilities,
Agreed.
combinations.
Yeah.
Cameron, I really like that idea because we have a silent salesman in each of our clubhouses. I think, except for Auburn Hills, I think they took theirs down, but we have a TV behind every counter that has promotions scrolling through as the customer sits there. So adding a QR code to the slides that talk about membership, I think is a great idea that we can do that tomorrow.
Cool. All right.
So this was a really nice piece of information, some data from 2021, the amount of rounds. So there was almost 80,000 rounds that came from members, and we had a total of, I think it was close to 176,000 rounds. Is that right, Applehans?
177.
Okay, 177,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you add the members with the non-members, that comes out to 177,000. But juniors was 9,600, residents 75,000, promotional almost 10,000, and the tournament packages 2,700. So the tournament packages, and that's one of the things I think we heard a lot about when we were talking about Kemper. We're gonna be overrun with tournaments. Well, if you see this, probably that's about 2%, maybe even 1.5% of the rounds were actually tournament packages. But what was really interesting is how many of these are members, and then it's actually broken down by the memberships per course and by adult couples, juniors, seniors, young adults, and the total. So the seniors, if you look at the seniors at all the courses, 44,000 rounds were done by produced by the seniors. So pretty big number when you're looking at the total amount of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different categories.
Yeah, well, you would expect seniors to be bigger because they theoretically more are retired and have more time and play more golf.
Yep, exactly.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Are we ready for the finance report?
Sure.
Rounds report.
Oh,
Santa, I'll have you go through the rounds report for me, please.
yes, sir. All right, so as you might have noticed in the last portion of this, weather really hindered us in March. We had a lot of moisture, so when we compare March of this year to last year, we were down 7%, but overall for the year, we're up 5%. So we're still rocking and rolling, doing great. Cart revenue's up 12%, and we saw a really big increase in Auburn Hills, which I thought was really interesting. And I think part of that spike, at first I wanted to say it had to do with the really great tournament that Scott hosted for the Shamrock Scramble. Then I realized all that revenue's listed under city tournaments, so that wasn't even what affected that. So I think more people are just riding out at Auburn Hills now and taking advantage of the memberships. Go on down. Food and beverage, we saw a huge spike, 33%. I was excited. I mean, again, we're seeing huge growth at Auburn Hills, 45%, followed by Tex Solver at 31%. I mean, for the first quarter, that's really remarkable when you look at our overall year projections, and usually the first quarter is our slowest when it comes to F&B. We have the least amount of inventory on hand, and we're not seeing sales like this. So I'm excited about the next 3 months. Merchandise comparison, this is new. We added this in here after some questions about it last month. When you look at Sim, consider that Colin was just put into the golf professional position, so he has not had a contract in place where he could sell merchandise. So that location has been filled by Steve over at Tex and Scott over at Auburn Hills, taking turns filling that with inventory so we can have the basics there, balls, tees, gloves, things of that nature. Auburn Hills, he obviously has the most inventory on hand, so he has more of a selection than most locations. And living in the Auburn Hills neighborhood, he does see a lot of traffic from the community in his pro shop. So he always has great sales there. This just kind of gives you an overview of what the merchandise revenue looks like. 5% of this goes to the city. And then memberships, we saw another spike. We usually have seen that trend happen going into the spring. That's when we see a lot of new membership agreements roll in, and that didn't change this year. Where we did see the most growth, obviously, was seniors. But like Nancy said, they're retired. They're taking advantage of a great deal, and so we're going to see a lot of them. Driving range comparison. Tex Solver was the only one that we saw some positive growth, and They actually have started the beers and balls special out at their driving range. So I think we're going to continue to see them lead the way in this category. They offer this great special where you can get 2 large buckets and 6 domestic beers for $23.50, and that's, I think, $8 in savings. So it's a good bargain for people. Sim started their ladies beginner group lessons. Looks like I didn't finish the sentence there. Whoops. And then Auburn Hills hosted the Shamrock Scramble. I think it was on the 12th or 13th. He had 122 golfers. And I got to tell you, Scott does a really good job when he hosts tournaments. And that's another reason. And I wanted to bring that up about the Pro Shop merchandise, why you see his number usually higher than the other locations, is because he incorporates his merchandise as prizes for the tournaments. He's really good about incorporating a tee gift for every tournament, and then probably like a golf bag or something along those lines for proximity contests. Steve also offers gift certificates for tournaments for his merchandise, as well as Scott for ones that they host for corporate outings. So they tend to generate more revenue in their pro shops because of those gift certificates that they sell are dedicated to their pro shops. Colin is going to begin doing that this spring, I believe, and I think that's just going to help them take off with that. Maintenance news, like I said, we got a lot of moisture. We saw almost 5 inches of rain this month at McDonald, almost 5 inches of snow at Sim. We had all of the courses closed anywhere from 2.5 to 5 days. Ranges were closed between 7 and 9 days. So hopefully April, we don't see all of those showers that, typically comes with April, and we can have a nice dry month.
Shanna,
Yes, sir.
one of the things that helps Auburn Hills out too is they have their senior league
Mm-hmm.
that each player puts $2 in the kitty, and then prizes are awarded for low gross, low net, for different categories, but all that money goes out in merchandise gift certificates.
Yep.
So if he has, which is I don't think unusual for him to have like 40 to 50 players on a Wednesday morning, there's $80 that's going directly into his merchandise sales, and that's whether or not those gift certificates are actually redeemed. So it's got an automatic advantage over any of the other courses, because I think the only other course I know that was doing that was Mcdonald, but their participation wasn't nearly as high as Auburn's.
Yeah, they had less than 16 showing up each week.
At McDonald.
Yeah, that's why we moved it over to Sim, I think 3 years ago.
And how much did they get about the same amount of turnout?
I think they're doing better. I think I remember Colin saying it was somewhere between 25 and 30 guys showing up on Thursdays, because Auburn hosts it on Wednesdays and then Sim does it the next day. So they see a lot of overflow from the Auburn Hills League.
Yeah, ours is going to get a lot bigger. It starts Thursday, and it's going to be at least 40, probably closer to 50 maybe. It's going to be much bigger, and we're also starting to do what Scott does next week, which is to do gift certificates. So they'll be using those in the pro shop this year.
Back to you in the office, Troy.
So, Niall, I wanted to answer your question. I got an email from
Down there.
Yes, ma'am.
one of my finance folks. Currently, our available budget right now, or the available dollars that we have in the equipment replacement fund, is $260,000, or 263. So to think about this, we have roughly 170,000, 175,000 rounds a year. We get $1 for each one of those. So we, in that fund gets $175,000 a year to replace mowers and tractors and all the other equipment that goes with it. Not necessarily enough. So we can buy a couple pieces every year, or we can, what happened last year was we were able to save over 2 years, and that's why we had a bigger balance, and we're able to buy several pieces of equipment instead of just one. So I want to thank Nikki for sending me. She's obviously watching, and so she sent me an email for this.
Great.
Yeah.
Where are we on the agenda? Are we about?
The finance report.
Nancy, I was not able to complete that today. Several members of my accounting staff were not here, so I wasn't able to get it, but it's going pretty well. It mirrors very much of what you saw with the rounds report. January and February, we did very, very well, and we were ahead of schedule because we had a wet March. That kind of flattened out the curve a little bit, but we're still moving in the black comparatively. So when I get a chance, I'll send you guys that as soon as I can.
Okay, sounds good. Are there any other new items for consideration?
I did have one thing I wanted to ask the committee to respond to or feedback was one of the comments or suggestions, again, from the council when we were discussing golf was the makeup and the function of the golf advisory committee, and that they were talking about expanding or that would be revamped in some manner or form. And I wondered, Troy, what kind of feedback you've had from that, or what your thoughts, or where that might go, where that discussion might go.
So far, I've not got anything back from council, and I know Councilmember Fry was looking at this, and I think the mayor and Councilmember Ballard. I'm waiting for them to kind of give me direction about what they want. I think there was an idea or a thought of having, instead of just the function of playing golf and having golfers, but I think the idea of expanding it to people who have actual strong accounting background, maybe somebody who does, and we do have somebody who does advertising and marketing, but having them a little bit more involved and actually tying them with businesses to get more business exposure and having our businesses more and more involved with our golf courses. That's just really broad and general from just the reading in between the lines from a couple comments that I've received. But what I'll do is I'll send the city manager an email and asking him a little bit more about what are the thoughts, what are the things that are transitioning, and is there an expected timeline? So,
well, we know how council always has good ideas from the bench, but follow up is not one of their high points. So I think getting in touch with the manager and seeing what his thoughts on that are, and having him discuss that with the council would probably help move that forward or clarify what they have in mind.
exactly. I'll send them.
I'm glad you're gonna follow up on that.
Yep, I'll do that first thing in the morning. Yep.
Okay, I'm done.
I have one question for you guys, and as I mentioned, the position closes for the golf director closes on Sunday. I had asked, and I think Nancy, you had suggested that you were interested in being on the committee. So I'm going to ask you to be on the committee if that's okay. And I'll probably get somebody from the park board and I'm going to suggest Eddie. Is there anybody else that you guys would like to see on that selection committee?
My understanding is that the city manager is committed to the first round of interviews. Is that your understanding, Troy?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
That the city manager has agreed to sit in and be a part of the interview process for the first round.
Okay, I did not know that. I can ask him, and if I'm sure he wants to be a part of it, so I think he'll probably either be in the first or second round. But yeah, I'll check on that.
All right, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we're ready for the pro updates. Colin, you want to start?
Yep. So at Sim this week, we aerated greens, and we had snag yesterday, and it blew about 40 mile an hour, and the kids about blew away. And then we have ladies group lessons tonight with the same type of wind, so that's going to be interesting. But things are going good. Senior league is huge, so just like Scott's, they're both growing enormous, and that's going to really help us out, and it's good to see. So. Lots of leagues are starting as well, and just getting more and more things set for the year, and looking forward to starting to have the pro shop starting Monday. So that'll be great, and looking forward to always open to what people think they might want in the shop, and got some good guys to help me out with that. But yeah, that's about it for Sim.
Good deal. And congratulations, Colin.
Oh, thanks. I'm sure Michael Ward probably knows what merchandise to put in here.
You might have some ideas. Yeah. Okay, Scott?
Well, as we roll into April, as Colin has noted, all of the leagues are starting. The men's club started on the last part of March. The senior league had an informational meeting yesterday. The ladies have already started both 9 and 18 holes. So things are progressing. Our senior league, we just had our meeting yesterday. We have 62 on the sign-up sheet to play next Wednesday, with a total of 79 seniors participating in our league. So over the last 5 or 6 years, I've seen a significant increase in that participation. Ladies, again, with Max folding their ladies program, they've transitioned to here. So we've seen growth in nearly every category as far as leagues that this facility has seen. And we haven't even started the couples that will start in May. So things are progressing. Still picked up a few more tournaments. We just landed Coke employees with double shotgun in July. So things are just continuing to surprise me based on just the need for the use of this facility for the 2022 season. So looking forward to another good season here.
Lots of optimism. That's great. Since I'm not the president, I have no update. That's the next thing on the agenda. So I think, do we need to have a motion to adjourn?
Just want to add one thing. Now that we have a clear direction which way we're going, and I think I mentioned this at the last meeting as well, but hiring the new faces, I think we're going to get several new faces on the staff, and it's going to really bolster our team. I'm excited where we're going, and there's some little adjustments we need to continue to make, and I'm glad that you guys are still on the Golf Advisory Committee supporting golf and giving us good ideas, and the staff is working really, really hard. So I think we're going to have a fantastic summer. It's going to be great. So just wanted to add that in.
Okay. And I think
Got-
we are, oh, Niall?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, God bless the baby boomers.
All right. Okay, thank you, everybody, and see you next month.
Thank you. Good job, Nancy.
Oh, yeah. I can read the agenda.
There you go.
All right. Good night.